Hi, welcome to another episode of the Complete Farmhouse Kitchen cookbook. This recipe is from Yorkshire and it's called Yorkshire Pudding. Now, every English person, British person, would tell you that they do Yorkshire puddings on a regular basis. The reason I want to show you this one is because it's made with strong flour and not ordinary plain flour. So this is the Complete Farmhouse Kitchen cookbook, Yorkshire Puddings. The first thing you do before you even start measuring any ingredients for Yorkshire pudding is put your fat in your Yorkshire patty tins or Yorkshire tins and put them in the oven, and it needs to be on a high temperature of 220 Celsius. I'll just tell you what the others are. Gas mark 7 and 425 Fahrenheit for about 30 minutes, or until the puddings are golden and puffy. Basically you're making a batter mix, and this quantity should make about 12 small ones. You put your lard or your oil of your choice, but it must be an oil that can take high heat in the oven, because basically what you're doing, you're leaving it in there for about 15-20 minutes till your pan gets red hot and your oil or lard gets red hot, and that's the secret to making good Yorkshire puddings. But I don't know what it's going to be like with strong flour, which is, as you know, bread flour. That's the difference for me. That's the experimentation for me to see. Right, the first thing we'll start with is the flour. Now you can put it all in together and then whisk and mix. The idea is to get as many air bubbles in as possible. So with my bowl, and I've put the flour in there. Then I'm going to break an egg. This recipe, there's many recipes for Yorkshire puddings, there's many different ways that people have done it all over the years. This one calls for 1 egg. I've put the salt, pinch of salt already, or the 1/4 teaspoon of salt already in the flour, and then we just whisk. I'm using a hand whisk. Just start mixing the egg in with and add a little bit of milk at a time, so it don't go lumpy. But if you've got a big mixer you want to mix it with, then you probably won't get any lumps anyway. So all the ingredients are in. Put the flour away from the side. So it's 4 ounces of strong plain flour, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 egg, and 1/2 pint. Now the recipe did say skimmed, but we only have semi-skimmed in this house, so again, no variation. We just mix and mix and mix, mix and mix. Air bubbles. I think that will do. There you go. And that's what it should look like. Now I've had my pan in the oven now for a good half an hour. So if it comes out smoking, that's better. So what I'm going to do is pour this back into the milk jug so I can pour it into the patty tins, because it'll be absolutely red hot. So I'm just going to get it out of the oven now. There we go. And you should see it sizzling as I pour it in, starting to cook. Yeah. Well, obviously my patty tin is smaller than what their patty tin is because I've still got stuff left over, but I can make a bigger one later on. So let's just get these in, let's see how this turns out. So it's up for half an hour or until golden and puffy. It did say top of the oven, but my oven tends to be very, very hot, so I'll put it in the middle. Well, there they are, out of the oven. I should imagine they rose a little bit, but not brilliantly. So what I'm going to do now is, because of the bit we've got left over, I'm now going to put that higher up in the oven to see if that makes a difference. It should just come out because the fat with hot, it shouldn't have any sticking in the pan. It should just come out because the fat with the tin and the fat was really hot. There we go. Right, this is the second batch. I'm going to have, as you can see, I don't know if you can see anything coming from, but that's actually smoking, and that's not a bad thing. This is all I've got left, so I'll just do the inside. So I've just made another 8. Now we're going to put that on a higher heat at the top of the oven, and let's see if that makes a difference to them rising. Right, that's the second batch on a higher heat on the top of the oven, and there's no difference to the first, except for these have sort of like gone brown around the edges because it hasn't had so long for the sides. Again, you take them off out of any oil that's left over, or lard, that was hot. So move the pan out of the way. These are the first ones, and these are the second. These are already minus some because I've had some. I expected them to be, because it was a proper recipe, I expected them to be all puffy and huge and giant and crispy and everything else, and that's not worked. But when I make them myself, they're better than this, and I don't follow any recipe. It's just what my mum used to do, and she used to feel it as she went along. And you get to a certain consistency, if you know, when you've been doing it for years. And I use 3 or 4 eggs, and I think that's the secret. Eggs make things rise, that's why you use them in cakes. So there you go, that's out of this book. Obviously I don't know how old this recipe is, but this is an old, they're all old recipes from here. So perhaps they didn't expect them to be crispy and puffy in them days, I do not know, but that's how they turned out in my oven, following the instructions from the Complete Farmhouse Kitchen. But they're still very, very nice. Oh, one more thing as well. Usually, if you're not from the UK, you would have heard of Yorkshire pudding and roasted beef in Yorkshire pudding, which is the traditional way of eating them. So you have them with a dinner. But my mum brought us up to have them either with your dinner, roast beef and Yorkshire puddings, or as a pudding afterwards. And I have mine with treacle. Others have them with sugar, lemon curd or jam. But there is now, the bigger you get them, and more puffier, so they've got like an inside to them. If you rip them open, you can have them with cottage cheese. You can mix things up, because basically they are a pancake mix. So wherever you put in pancakes, you can actually put in these as well. So it's modernised way of eating an old-fashioned Yorkshire pudding, is to have them with anything you wish. Thank you very much, hope you enjoyed this.